the fight that turned fatal. It started as a normal Sunday night in Foxborough, the Patriots hosting the Dolphins under the lights. But in section 308, something went terribly wrong. Two fans began shouting, shoves turned to punches, and chaos erupted in the stands. Moments later, a 53-year-old father collapsed, unresponsive. Witnesses said one hit landed flush, and then everything went silent. He was rushed to a nearby hospital, but he never made it. The news spread like wildfire. A man had died at a football game. The videos, the outrage, the disbelief, all of it blurred together. Two fans were later charged with assault, and suddenly the question wasn't about the Patriots' offense, it was about fan behavior. Alcohol, anger, and tribal loyalty had turned entertainment into tragedy. Stadium fights have always been a dark part of the game, but this one hit different. It wasn't just another viral clip, it was a reminder that sometimes the most dangerous hits happen in the seats, not on the field. The Escalator Incident. A few seconds. That's all it took. After a Steelers-Jets game at Acrisure Stadium, a man leaving the upper concourse lost his balance on an escalator and fell. Witnesses said it happened without warning. One moment he was standing, the next, he was gone. Paramedics rushed him to the hospital, but he later died from his injuries. It was the kind of tragedy that feels impossible in a place built for fun. The stadium was buzzing, the fans were celebrating, and yet one family was suddenly destroyed. Officials ruled it accidental, but for many who saw it, the image never left their minds. Questions surfaced about handrails, maintenance, and alcohol policies, but no answer brought comfort. The Steelers organization released a statement offering condolences, but the silence that followed spoke volumes. A fall, a scream, a stunned crowd. It reminded fans everywhere that sometimes the real dangers at NFL games aren't bone-crunching tackles. They're the small moments, the ones no one sees coming. The fall in Houston, the Houston Texans had just wrapped up a preseason win at Reliant Stadium when tragedy struck. A 25-year-old fan, celebrating the start of football season, leaned over a railing on an escalator and fell 3 stories to his death. Witnesses said the sound was sickening. Police later revealed his blood alcohol level was nearly twice the legal limit, raising questions about over-serving and security. It wasn't the first time alcohol and gravity had collided in an NFL venue, but it hit hard in Houston. Reliant was brand new at the time, the crown jewel of Texas football. Yet suddenly, it was a crime scene. The team lowered flags to half-staff, and fans brought flowers to the gates. It was a sobering reminder that even celebration can cross the line into danger. Stadiums are built to hold noise, emotion, and passion, not tragedy. The Texans made minor safety adjustments after the fact, but for one family, there was no fixing what was lost. Football resumed the next week, but the joy of opening day never felt the same again. The Overpass Tragedy. Candlestick Park was supposed to be a farewell tour. The 49ers were playing their final season there before moving to Levi's Stadium, but that goodbye turned grim fast. During the home opener against Green Bay, a 32-year-old fan lost his footing on a pedestrian walkway and fell onto the parking lot below. The impact killed him instantly. Police called it accidental. Witnesses said poor lighting and narrow railings played a role. It wasn't the first fall at an NFL venue, but it was one of the most haunting because it came at the end of an era. For decades, Candlestick had been a place of triumph. Montana, Rice, the catch. But that day, it became a symbol of neglect. Old infrastructure, old design, and overlooked safety protocols collided with modern crowds. Fans came to see football history and left with trauma they'd never forget. Candlestick's legacy was already fading, but this tragedy ensured it would never be remembered the same way again. Not just for victories, but for the lives lost in its shadow. The parking lot beating, it was supposed to be California football at its peak, the defending champs versus their biggest rivals. But before kickoff, the SoFi parking lot turned into a battlefield. Witnesses described chaos, shouting, beer cans flying, fists swinging. In the middle of it all, a 40-year-old 49ers fan was beaten unconscious. He hit the ground and never woke up. Paramedics found him bleeding and unresponsive. He spent weeks in a coma. Police later determined it started over trash talk. 2 fan bases, 2 beers, too many. The attacker fled, then turned himself in after security footage surfaced. The NFL released its standard zero tolerance for violence statement, but fans were furious. SoFi was the league's newest, most expensive stadium, a $5 billion marvel, yet couldn't guarantee basic safety. It was supposed to showcase Los Angeles glamour. Instead, it exposed the ugly truth. Rivalries are fun until someone doesn't make it home. The Rivalry Riot. Few rivalries are as dangerous as Raiders versus Chargers, and in 2019, that rivalry exploded into chaos. The game was over, but the war in the parking lot had just begun. Dozens of fans swarmed into a fight that looked more like a riot than post-game banter. Phones were out, fists were flying, and by the time police arrived, one man was unconscious and covered in blood. The video hit social media within hours, drawing millions of views and disgust. NFL stadiums have long battled a reputation for alcohol-fueled violence, but this scene was next level. People weren't just fighting for their team anymore. They were fighting for clout, for cameras, for chaos. Raiders fans wore it like a badge of honor. Chargers fans claimed they were victims. But when the dust settled, nobody looked tough, just foolish. Football's fiercest rivalries have always walked a fine line, and this one crossed it in brutal fashion. The night Philly went too far. The NFC Championship in Philadelphia had everything: passion, energy, and absolute mayhem. From kickoff to confetti, the stands at Lincoln Financial Field looked like a war zone. Dozens of fights broke out, beer cups flew through the air, and one fan was shoved down a flight of stairs as cameras rolled. Police made multiple arrests, but the chaos barely slowed. Philadelphia's reputation for wild crowds wasn't built overnight, but this game cemented it. Even in victory, the headlines weren't about the Eagles' Super Bowl run, they were about the hospitalizations. NFL security was criticized for being outnumbered and outmatched. The fans, they wore it like a badge of pride. Philly loves passion, but sometimes passion turns to pandemonium. By the way, only cool people are subscribed to the channel, so hit that button if you haven't already. The Escalator Collapse. It happened fast. One of those moments where nobody knew what was going on until it was too late. After a Patriots game at Gillette Stadium in 2021, an escalator suddenly malfunctioned, jerking violently before lurching forward. 9 fans were thrown off balance and tumbled down the metal steps in a terrifying domino effect. Panic erupted as people screamed and tried to pull each other up. Security shut it down immediately, but the damage was already done. Dozens were bruised, 9 hospitalized, and several suffered broken bones. The cause? A mechanical failure that shouldn't have happened in a billion-dollar facility. But that's the reality of modern stadiums. Beneath all the tech, there's still machines, and machines break. Fans later said the sound of metal grinding was worse than any hit they'd ever seen on the field. Gillette's pristine image took a hit that night too. No players were injured, no touchdowns scored, but it was one of the most chaotic plays of the year, and it didn't even happen on the field. The lightning strike. It was supposed to be just another Sunday tailgate in Atlanta. The Falcons were about to play, the parking lots were packed, and fans were grilling, laughing, and drinking under the clouds. Then, boom. A lightning bolt tore through the sky and struck a light pole just outside the Georgia Dome. 4 fans were caught in the blast radius. They dropped instantly. Witnesses described the sound like a bomb, followed by screams and silence. Paramedics rushed in, performing CPR as the crowd scattered for cover. All 4 survived, but the burns were severe, and the shockwave left dozens shaken. The NFL called it a freak occurrence, but meteorologists warned it wasn't that rare. Open-air stadiums, metal structures, and unpredictable weather are a risky mix. It was a vivid reminder that sometimes the most dangerous thing about football isn't the violence or the crowd, it's nature itself. That day, the Falcons lost the game, but everyone was just grateful they didn't lose more lives. The cameraman's collision. It happened in a blur, literally. During a Jets-Dolphins game in 2017, a cameraman stationed on the sideline was zoomed in on the action when the unthinkable happened. A running back got tripped, lost balance, and barreled straight into him at full speed. The hit snapped the man's leg instantly. Players waved frantically for medical help as the camera rolled to the turf. You could hear the pain in his voice. A professional who'd filmed hundreds of games, but never expected to be part of one. He was carted off the field and later required surgery to repair multiple fractures. The broadcast cut away, but the clip circulated online for weeks. A haunting example of how even the people behind the scenes risk it all. The cameraman later said he still loves football, but can't stand on sidelines anymore without flinching. For everyone watching, it was a brutal reminder. When the play goes out of bounds, there's nowhere safe to stand. The Sideline Knockout, it looked like a routine play until it wasn't. During a Cowboys game in 2019, a cheerleader standing just feet from the end zone was blindsided by a receiver sprinting out of bounds. The collision sent her flying backward, knocking her unconscious before she even hit the turf. The crowd gasped, players froze, and medical staff sprinted over. She eventually woke up and waved to the fans, earning a standing ovation, but the replay told the full story. A 200-pound athlete at full speed hitting someone completely unaware. The incident went viral, not just for the shock, but because of how fragile those sidelines really are. They look orderly on camera, but it's organized chaos. Players, cheerleaders, photographers, coaches, all separated from violence by a few inches. That day, one wrong step turned into a viral injury. She later recovered, but the hit became one of those infamous NFL moments that fans still mention whenever the action drifts too close to the edge. The ball boy crush. It's one of those plays that lives in slow motion, a punt return gone wrong, a sideline full of chaos, and a ball boy who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. During a Chiefs game in 2016, a gunner was shoved out of bounds at full speed and plowed straight into a young assistant holding spare footballs. The impact sent both crashing into a metal bench, and for a second, everyone thought the worst. Players dropped to a knee as medical crews rushed in. The ball boy was lucky. A broken arm, bruised ribs, but alive. The player who hit him was shaken too, reportedly visiting him in the hospital the next day. It was a freak accident, but one that made headlines for weeks. The NFL quietly adjusted sideline spacing rules afterward because when a 200-pound athlete turns into a projectile, it doesn't matter if you're a coach, fan, or kid with a towel. You're part of the game now. The helmet toss. It started as a fight between players and ended in the stands. During a Browns-Steelers game in 2022, tempers flared, punches were thrown, and when it was over, a helmet went flying into the crowd. One fan took the hit directly to the face, blood everywhere. The cameras caught the aftermath, paramedics rushing in, fans yelling, and the player looking stunned as security intervened. The man was treated for facial fractures, and the league opened an investigation. It was chaos, and it blurred the line between spectators and participants. The NFL has seen everything from snowballs to beer cups thrown at players, but this time, the violence went the other way. Stadium safety is supposed to be a one-way barrier. What happens on the field stays there, but that night, it wasn't. The fan recovered, but it became another dark reminder that in the NFL, emotions run high, and sometimes helmets do too. The ice slip. It wasn't violent or loud or dramatic, but it hurt. During a snowy December game at Soldier Field in 2018, hundreds of Bears fans rushed to leave early, slipping and sliding down icy steps coated in sleet. Cameras caught fans tumbling in slow motion, beers flying, nachos airborne. Pure chaos. One man fractured his wrist trying to break a fall, another cracked a rib. Paramedics were overwhelmed with minor injuries, and stadium staff scrambled to salt the steps mid-game. Chicago weather has always been part of football's mythology. Tough fans, frozen fields, and brutal winds. But this was different. It wasn't glory, it was gravity. The video clip spread online like a winter blooper reel, but for the people involved, it was no joke. In a sport built on collisions, sometimes the most painful ones don't involve players at all, just everyday fans trying to get home. The Snowball Game. It's one of the most infamous fan moments in NFL history. December 1995, the Philadelphia Eagles hosting the Dallas Cowboys in a blizzard. The game was nearly unplayable, but that didn't stop the crowd from finding entertainment. Thousands of fans began packing snowballs and throwing them at players, at referees, at security, even at Santa Claus himself. The scene descended into chaos, with cops shielding players and announcers begging for calm. One official was struck in the face. Several fans were arrested. The Snowball Game became legend, part comedy, part disaster. Decades later, it still defines Philly's wild reputation. Passionate, loyal, and completely unhinged. Nobody died, nobody was seriously injured, but it showed just how close the line between fun and danger can be. Every team has rowdy fans, but nobody does chaos like Philadelphia. If you like this video, you'll love this next one. So go watch it right now.